Hello and welcome to the show. Now, the tussle between Larsen and Toubro and Mindtree over the ownership of the mid-tier IT tech company remains our top focus this evening. Now, the L&T management is meeting as we speak, and we learned that the conglomerate is all set to announce the acquisition of 20.4% stake held by CCD founder VG Siddhartha and two CCD affiliates in Mindtree. Now, further, we learned that L&T is going to make an open offer to hike its stake to 51% in Mindtree. This even as Mindtree co-founder KK Natarajan shot off a letter to L&T warning them against a hostile takeover. Hello and welcome to this special episode, CNBC-TV18 special. My colleague Mugdha Warrior also joins me from Bengaluru for this entire discussion. Mugdha, good to have you. And first of all, what are you picking up at this moment? We know that L&T board has been deliberating on this particular deal right now. But what are the contours and what is the latest?
Thanks, Nisha. Like you said, L&T is set to announce the acquisition of VG Siddhartha's stake in Mindtree anytime today. VG Siddhartha was in Mumbai to meet with the L&T management and to sign the deal. So L&T is going to pick up the entire 20.4% stake that VG Siddhartha holds along with the CCD entities in Mindtree for rupees 981 per share, which would put the whole stake to about a little over rupees 3,000 crore. Now, L&T is also set to go for a voluntary open offer to take its stake to about 51%. As you said, there has been a lot of resistance from the promoters of Mindtree, with KK Natarajan and Rosto Ravanan writing a very scathing letter to L&T over the weekend, saying that this deal will be value destructive, and has also raised concerns that employees and even clients and investors would not want to be associated with a company which will be culturally different from what Mindtree has been. So that is the status so far, and there is also the board meeting of Mindtree on Wednesday to announce a share buyback, which is being seen as an attempt to thwart the whole L&T takeover. But, as we discussed, L&T is set to go ahead with the takeover today.
All right, so that's where this whole transaction is, and there has been, remember, counter-attack coming in from L&T to that buyback bid as well. We'll talk about that particular aspect more, but let me introduce first both the guests who are joining us on this special edition. Joining us now to discuss this further are Amit Tandon, the founder and MD of IIAS, and G. Chokalingam, who's a founder and MD at Economics Research and Advisory. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. First to you, Amit. Now, of course, this is one of the first IT hostile takeover bid that we have seen. How do you see the way Mindtree promoters have reacted to this situation?
First, it's kind of pretty much the first, in a sense, the first hostile takeover. When I go back in a little bit, go back in terms of time, what has happened, I think there was a takeover by Abhijit Rajan for Gammon India. And in a sense, you might, if you stretch things a bit, you could say that Fortis hospital sale was also something which the Singh brothers didn't want and were pushed into it, and therefore, in a sense, it was a hostile. So this is one truly hostile takeover. So it kind of means that what happens here will, in some sense, guide what happens going forward. It's one of those things where I think it's a little bit early and a little bit speculative at this stage to kind of say what will happen and how different people are reacting. Clearly, there is a lot of noise, as you would expect. Someone who wants to make a bid for it, kind of building their case, and the promoters of Mindtree are building their case in terms of why they believe this is not good. From a shareholder perspective, I don't think it's one of the things which will come to shareholders for vote.
Right.
But therefore, each individual will have to take a call based on how they read the events as they unfold over the next few days, assuming, of course, that the offer is made. So let's kind of focus this discussion, assuming that there is an offer. If it's not there, it'll still be some meaningful discussion in some of the contours of such transactions, and we can leave it at that and move forward.
There's not much room for assumptions here, Amit, because we do gather from sources with direct knowledge right now that those deal dynamics contracts are being worked out. The documentation is getting sealed while this particular board meeting is almost over and everybody is on board with it. But yes, talking about this transaction, let me take it to another guest then, G. Chokalingam, on this. What do you have to say about the way the shareholders will benefit, or will it be value destructive, as Mr. Natarajan has said in his letter to L&T?
On benefit first for the shareholder, definitely there will be some benefit, but it will be marginal, because I don't think if open offer comes, it would be at any significant premium, because Mindtree is already trading at around 2.1 time enterprise value to revenue, which is one of the costliest in the mid-sized IT space. And there are many comparable companies available at 1.2 to 1.5 times EV to annual revenue. So therefore, first of all, I don't expect a huge premium to current market price. And second, yes, there could be some trouble, because we know who have been tracking Mindtree for last 10, 12 years. These are the people who were behind this from the inception. So definitely there could be some disruption which could be negative. So therefore, I believe that there are many other options also available for L&T. So one should not rush to do this deal in a hurry.
My question to both of you is, what is the learning from this episode? This has been playing out for months now. And, we understand that VG Siddhartha had communicated his decision to exit after he stepped down from the board last year. And, there had been months of tussle. In fact, the L&T offer dropped from about 1,200 rupees per share to, 981 at present. What is the learning here?
Yeah. The first line is that, the IT sector, which used to grow even at 20-30% in dollar term long ago, now it is growing in over single digit. And the second point is that there are some acquisition in the recent past. We have seen Patni, Polaris, Avert, but the last one was Emphasis. Surprisingly, only the foreign companies mostly gone for acquisition, whereas the Indian companies most of the time stayed away from this consolidation process. Now, this is the first time a mega acquisition is happening. And if it happens, this would influence a lot more acquisition and consolidation, because, as I said, in the near future, it is unlikely that IT sector will grow in strong double digit in dollar term. So that way, two things would happen. One, more and more acquisition one can expect involving mid-sized IT companies. And second, even the existing companies in this space would see their valuation multiple getting upgraded.
And Mr. Tandon, my question to you is, how do you see this playing out? Once this acquisition does come through, do you see the management staying on, or will it get even more ugly? What are your expectations from this particular acquisition?
Look, let me come to it. But first, the other question you'd asked in terms of what the lessons are, I think there's a signal which is there, which is the fact that Siddhartha quit the board sometime in March of last year. And since then, there has certainly been some transaction or the other which has been in the offing, and a couple of private equity players have looked at it. It just shows that, look, things are going to be a little bit challenging. And this is primarily because, anyone who comes in, and this is particularly true if you have someone like another IT player coming in. Question is, what happens if with 21% stake, surely they can't do anything with it, because the promoters are there at 13%. So they need to get above a threshold of either 26 or 51. If they make an open offer and are able to cross 51, then they've got a lot more maneuverability with regard to what they can do with the company. If they're stuck between 26 and 50, they have certainly some veto rights, which means that the thing will get messy. If they're left below 26%, I'm not really sure whether they've achieved anything at all other than spend good money on a transaction or on an entity with which they can do very little with. You need to remember some time back, Tata's had made a bid for a hotel offshore, Orient Hotel, and they spent a lot of money. And again, it was a valuation which was at the top of the cycle. And then for many years, they were not able to do anything and finally exited it at a significant discount to the price at which they bought it. So you need to be very clear in terms of what the end game is when you're going to make a move such as the one which L&T is considering at this stage.
So you choose your battles, so to say, and is it really worth that much is the next question that I want to pose to G. Chokalingam as well. Do you think that if the promoters are not in sync with this particular takeover and if they do not really stay on and there is an exodus in the company, do you think that the business will be stable? And is it too much of an energy loss and missed opportunity, especially at a time when the IT sector is really seeing tailwinds which is working in its favor?
It's a difficult question to answer, but certainly, going by logic, one can answer. If acquisition bid is done by any smaller name, your apprehensions could be right. But here you have a L&T, which is a conglomerate in India, if you take the group as a whole. So it is not that everybody would be panicked in the event of L&T succeeding in acquiring it. A large proportion of the employees would stay back. And secondly, there is a dilemma for the existing promoters. In case they exit the company without selling the stake, they are also going to become the party to the loser of equity wealth in the market. So putting all this perspective together, so I don't see much damage happening if at all L&T finally succeeds. And also I believe that considering a promoter's very small stake and a large percentage of the stakes are held by institutional and other public investors, for L&T, if at all it wants to take the battle to the final ground, it could succeed in getting beyond 26 or close to 51 quite easily. It's only a question of paying extra premium, but then L&T is capable of that. So therefore, I don't see any major crisis in the whole transmission or post-acquisition.
Right. But here I would like to come to one particular point which Amit was mentioning. Amit, you said that another 31% stake buyout from open offer to get a controlling stake. At this point, the promoters of Mindtree will require to really roll out an open offer if they were to come with a counter open offer for 38% stake because they already own 13% stake. Do you think this kind of a hostile takeover battle can really go on in this particular case, especially given that it requires a lot more funds?
Look, as far as the promoters are concerned, I don't think they can significantly up what they want to do with the open offer. There are restrictions. It has to be 25% of the net worth. If you look at 25% of the net worth and then look at the market cap of the company, it translates to roughly about 5 to 6% of the company. So that will at the moment just take them to 18, maybe 19%.
Right.
So I don't think it's realistic. So for there, the best option is if they can get another bidder to come in. And the challenge there, of course, which I see it is that they have been trying for a while now.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they've been trying for a year now. Whether they've succeeded or what was the reason they've not succeeded is really not clear to me at this stage. Coming back to the other question which you asked, in the sense that, look, it's very difficult to say, how many people will stay back and what will happen to the residual business, because one of the reasons why the existing management is not in favor of L&T coming in is that they feel that there's a significant difference in the culture.
Yes.
It's not that one is better or one is not so good. It just is that people have different ways of functioning, different styles, and therefore they feel that, look, given the business they are in, their style is better suited than the L&T style. L&T could have a contrary view saying that their style is better, which is why we are acquiring Mindtree, because feeling that, look, if we bring in our systems and processes and our rigor into the business, maybe it will result in an uptick in valuation. So it's very difficult. Who are they able to retain? Which part of the senior management team, if they're going to succeed, are they able to retain them? What are the dynamics between the people who've stayed back? What are dynamics between them and L&T? And then you need to remember that, if for whatever reason they're just short of 51% or are not able to push through a merger, you've got 3 listed entities in the L&T stable which are looking at IT.
Yes.
And therefore, the question is that, look, is for L&T, is that sustainable? Or will they just kind of say that, look, let's put it in slow burn when there is a greater alignment of cultures, we feel something can happen, then merge it? Or will they kind of just turn around and say, look, I think it's a little too much to chew at this stage and therefore let's turn back. So,
integration issues when it's a people's business is also not very easy. So that's a decision that Larsen and Toubro will be taking. But remember that the bigger question here also is that whether or not VG Siddhartha and CCD entities as the large investors, do they have the right to sell to whomever they want to sell, or here the Mindtree promoters had a say? We'll discuss that on the other side. Time now to head into a short break on this show. But as we do that, we also spoke, remember, to Mindtree co-founder Ashok Soota, and he expects the Mindtree promoters to come up with another plan, as he doesn't expect their buyback plan to achieve much in this takeover tussle with L&T. Here's an excerpt of that conversation, and I will see you on the other side.
Have you been approached, in terms of bringing them to the table, or
no, not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
It's complicated enough, I'm sure, without trying to bring in.
All right. So, Mr. Soota, as you said, irrespective of what happens, the shareholders will benefit because the stock price is going to go up, and there's going to be a battle between these parties. From the promoters' point of view, they have been talking about a buyback, but just going by the calculations, that can't do much, right? That can increase stake by maximum 2 to around 4% odd.
Absolutely.
So, will they be successful in this attempt? And what are the other options they have on the table?
Yeah, so I would imagine if there's a buyback, it's only a part of the financial strategy. Because as you said, if it's just going to be a very small percentage, what does it do? In a way, the buyback also works in the other way, because then the percentage of shares that are needed, those shares are bought over and extinguished. Then the percentage of shares that are needed to reach that 26% also goes down. And so in itself, I don't think it's going to achieve too much. I presume there's another financial strategy which will emerge, because otherwise they would not be making the sort of statements we've seen in the media today. Up till now, you could sense that there was concern, they were working on it, and it's not an easy job. But I think there has to be an additional backup strategy of another investor with deep pockets who then come in and be able to, in a sense, become the new white knight.
Mr. Soota, are you saying that it could be a financial investor, it could be a company?
It could be anybody. I can't really speculate on that, because obviously...
But it has to be something more than just that buyback.
It has to be more than a buyback. A buyback in itself is not going to accomplish too much.
Amit, we were discussing the rights of an investor. Now, VG Siddhartha has backed this company for 20 years. He's stayed put in the company for so long. At a time like this, when he wants to exit, what do you think is the signal going out to the investor community from this kind of a slugfest that we are seeing between Mindtree promoters and an investor of 20 years?
Look, if he were exiting the stock without a reason or without any good explanation in terms of why he's doing it, investors would have been nervous. But here what he said is that there are personal loans which he's taken in the various holding companies, and he wants to repay the loan, and that would give comfort to the investor that it's nothing intrinsic regarding this company. But he's decided to focus on his other businesses rather than remain in a company where he has been a strategic investor for the longest.
Right.
So under different circumstances, maybe he would have remained. But I don't think investors are nervous per se about Siddhartha leaving.
All right. So, G. Chokalingam, what do you think of this particular situation, especially when it comes to shareholders deriving value of this transaction? If there's an open offer coming in from Larsen and Toubro, and if the shareholders really like that offer, they will tender in. So, the independence lies in the hands of the minority shareholders. And if the promoters come up with another counter open offer, it could further benefit the shareholders.
Oh, It's a very interesting question. I don't think the existing promoters can give a counter offer, considering their stake in the company and also overall market cap of Mindtree. I don't think it is possible for them, and therefore L&T is in a better position. It can definitely succeed because the huge stake is held by institutional and public investors. And as I said earlier, it's already trading at around 21p on current year and 2.1 time enterprise value to revenue. Some of the deals in the recent past in the mid-sized IT space happened at around 1.5 time also. So therefore, I don't think L&T has to make a huge premium to attract. Even 10% premium would be enough, in my view, to attract the minority shareholder and take the control of the company. So therefore, I believe L&T is in a better position.
My question to you, Mr. Tandon, is why do you think Mindtree has been a very attractive target for L&T to even, put up with these months of discussions? Mindtree has seen some fast growth. It's on a $1 billion revenue run rate, has a lot of digital revenues. Is that why you think Mindtree is an attractive target for an acquisition?
Look, I think the promoters have built a fantastic business over the last 15 years. The second is, and therefore it's kind of got critical size, and therefore anyone who wants to kind of take it and plug it onto their existing businesses will do well to have this. The second reason is that you've got promoters who have a stake, but not a significant stake. So if you kind of look at the valuations and multiply that with the market cap of the company, it's kind of a size which is digestible for a lot of people, which is what makes it attractive. If you were to look at something like a Wipro, the promoters have 70% equity, so that's not going to happen. If you look at Infosys, while you no longer have promoters, it's kind of slightly different. It's got a kind of different history, different culture. It's kind of viewed completely differently. But even assuming for the moment someone were to be interested, then you've got the promoters who have between them about 7-8%. At the market cap, it's a fairly large bite which they'll have to take. So it kind of fits in. Relatively small bite, attractive business, company which is doing fairly well, built up with a great deal of integrity, a great deal of comfort with clients. So therefore, it kind of seems to be a good fit with for someone who's willing to look at it. But mind you, as Mr. Chokalingam said, it is fairly highly valued as it is today. All right. So highly valued and top dollar can be paid really by a strategic, and a private equity investor will find it very difficult to exit if he buys at a price like this. So that's one point. But Amit, finally to wrap, before that, isn't it a promoter's responsibility to have enough voting rights and enough stake to prevent a hostile takeover rather than act later? And on the other hand, what is the responsibility of an independent director here? Because he's part of the board working with the promoters, but on the other hand, he has to keep in mind the shareholders' benefit. Sure. So look, unfortunately, we don't have case history, case law here in terms of what the role of an independent director in these situations are. But if you look at what happens in the US market, if there is a bid which is received, the directors are supposed to look at it and independently advise the investors whether they accept, recommend that they accept this bid or not. So maybe in this case itself, it might be appropriate for the independent directors to hire an independent counsel who can walk them, and an investment banker who can tell them whether the valuation is right and what their recommendations are and what their roles and responsibilities are. So this, of course, will be a first in the domestic market. As far as, the promoters increasing their stake, I don't think, look, it's a historical construct. These were all professionals. They moved from a job. They kind of began working. Yes, if they could have, I'm sure they would have picked up a higher stake, but circumstances being such, they're stuck at this level. All right, and proxy advisory firms also have a huge role to play in advising the shareholders, and so do equity analysts like G. Chokalingam on what really benefits the shareholders in the long run. Thank you so much, gentlemen, Amit Tandon as well as G. Chokalingam and Mugdha, for joining us straight from Bangalore, where the battleground is really developing. With that, it's a wrap on our special. From all of us here, many thanks for watching out, and also remember that
we are still awaiting those finer details of that transaction and the announcement to be made by Larsen and Toubro.